The first sound wasn't applause. It was the sharp clink of a crystal glass hitting the marble floor. Every conversation inside the rooftop ballroom stopped as a little girl, no older than 8, rushed toward a man security had just pulled away from the buffet table. "Dad!" Her frightened voice echoed across the room. The elegant CEO lowered her champagne glass and stared at the stranger standing in worn shoes and a faded navy blazer. He looked painfully out of place among investors, celebrities, and politicians celebrating her company's 10th anniversary. "You weren't invited," she said, keeping her voice calm enough for everyone to hear. "This event isn't a public shelter." The crowd chuckled. The man quietly lowered his eyes. Then, before anyone could speak again, the ballroom doors swung open. An elderly army general in full dress uniform entered with 2 decorated officers behind him. He looked across hundreds of guests, raised his hand, and delivered a perfect military salute to the humiliated single father. The room froze. No one understood what they had just witnessed, not even Daniel Brooks. Daniel looked almost embarrassed as he returned the salute with practiced precision before lowering his hand. The general crossed the room without acknowledging anyone else. "Sergeant Brooks," he said warmly, "I've been looking for you." Silence swallowed the ballroom. The CEO, Victoria Langford, felt every pair of eyes shift toward her. She had spent years building one of the country's fastest-growing cybersecurity companies. Tonight was supposed to secure a billion-dollar government partnership. Instead, everyone was staring at a man she'd mistaken for a gatecrasher. Daniel spoke softly. "General, you didn't have to come." "I absolutely did." Another twist settled over the room. The general wasn't angry. He looked grateful. Only an hour earlier, Daniel had been delivering food across downtown to make enough money to cover his daughter's asthma medication. Since his wife Emma had died 3 years earlier from an unexpected illness, every day had become a careful balance between parenting, bills, and exhaustion. That afternoon, his delivery van broke down. One customer canceled. Another refused to pay. By sunset, he had barely earned enough to buy groceries. While waiting outside an auto repair shop, Daniel noticed a little boy crying near the hotel hosting the CEO's celebration. The child had wandered away from his family. Daniel spent nearly 40 minutes helping hotel staff find the parents. In the process, his clean shirt became stained with juice, and he missed the last delivery that would have paid double. One hotel employee thanked him with leftover dinner vouchers after learning he had a daughter waiting at home. Those vouchers happened to be valid inside the anniversary banquet. Daniel hesitated before entering. He wasn't looking for luxury. He simply wanted to bring dinner home. Victoria hadn't known any of that. From across the ballroom, she saw only a tired man placing food carefully into napkins. To her, it looked like theft. Her company had spent millions creating an image of excellence. She couldn't allow one awkward moment to become tomorrow's headlines. So she confronted him publicly. It seemed like the responsible decision. Until now. The general finally turned toward the confused guests. "You all deserve to know why this man matters." Daniel immediately shook his head. "Please don't." The general smiled. "Still protecting others before yourself." That sentence landed differently. Victoria felt something tighten in her chest. 22 years earlier, during a peacekeeping mission overseas, the general's convoy had driven over an improvised explosive device. The explosion destroyed the lead vehicle. Gunfire erupted from nearby buildings. Communication failed. Visibility disappeared beneath smoke and dust. Daniel had been a 23-year-old Army sergeant. He wasn't the ranking soldier. He wasn't ordered to act. He simply saw wounded people trapped under burning metal. Ignoring repeated warnings, he ran back once. Then twice. Then a third time. Each trip brought another soldier out alive. On the fourth rescue, part of the vehicle collapsed onto his shoulder, permanently ending his military career. The general paused. "I survived because Sergeant Brooks refused to leave me behind." No one moved. He received recognition. The general continued, but he declined every media interview. Said he didn't save heroes. He saved fathers, daughters, husbands, wives, families. Daniel quietly looked toward his daughter. "I only did my job." Victoria suddenly realized why his left arm never swung naturally when he walked. It wasn't weakness. It was an old injury, one hidden beneath years of ordinary life. She felt ashamed, not because he had once been a soldier, but because she'd never bothered to ask who he was before judging him. Another surprise followed. One investor stepped forward. I remember reading about that rescue years ago. Then another guest recognized Daniel's name from an old military memorial. Soon conversations spread throughout the ballroom. People weren't admiring him because he had become wealthy. They admired him because he'd quietly disappeared back into ordinary life. No interviews, no book, no speeches, just honest work. Victoria walked toward Daniel. The room expected a polished corporate apology. Instead, she looked directly at his daughter first. I'm sorry you had to see that. The little girl squeezed her father's hand tighter. Victoria then faced Daniel. I judged the clothes instead of the person. Daniel nodded gently. We all do it sometimes. No, she admitted. We shouldn't. There was no dramatic music. No standing ovation. Just uncomfortable honesty. Sometimes that carried more weight. As the evening resumed, Victoria noticed something she'd overlooked before. Daniel wasn't interested in attention. He quietly packed 2 small meals into containers. One for himself, one for his daughter. Before leaving, he thanked the catering staff. Not because they owed him anything, because gratitude had survived everything life had taken from him. That image stayed with Victoria longer than the salute. Months later, her company launched a nationwide hiring initiative for military veterans and single parents returning to the workforce. Not as charity, as opportunity. Applications no longer filtered candidates by polished resumes alone. They included life experience, resilience, and community service. Daniel declined every offer to become the campaign's public face. Instead, he accepted a part-time position mentoring younger veterans adjusting to civilian life. It paid less than consulting, but it meant more. His daughter loved visiting the center after school. She said it reminded her of home because everyone looked after one another. On the first anniversary of that unforgettable party, Victoria invited Daniel back. Not as a guest, as the evening's first speaker. He walked onto the same rooftop where he'd once been humiliated. The skyline glittered behind him. He looked across hundreds of faces and said only one sentence. The strongest people you'll ever meet usually don't look important. The audience stood, not because he demanded respect, because he had earned it long before anyone noticed. Sometimes the greatest heroes don't arrive wearing medals. Sometimes they arrive carrying grocery bags, raising children alone, and choosing kindness on the hardest days. And the world only recognizes them after someone brave enough remembers to salute.